Hi, it's another TBR video from me, your favorite TBR creator, who creates only TBRs. It's all TBRs all the time here on this channel. Why change anything now? It's October. So for October, I have a couple of readathons that I'm keen to participate in. The first is Blackaweenathon, hosted by Bree from the Locked Booktician. The second is Amp Crystal Lake Readathon, hosted by Barb from Barb's Bookland. So I have kind of an expansive TBR of like things that I would like to get to, but my reading hasn't been going great lately, if we're honest. So I'm just going to take you through sort of like things that respond to like sort of the core prompts that I'm trying to cover. Who knows if I'll even get to those, but like we're going to try. I'm trying. I'm very trying. If for some reason my channel is the first you're hearing about Blackaweenathon, fix that, because this is not a good source for anything really. But I'll have links to Bree's announcement video down below. This is, I believe, her third year running Blackaweenathon. It's my second year participating, but I'll have everything linked down below for you that will be explained much more clearly than I will do, because I mean, you see what's happening. The short of it is Blackaweenathon is all about reading dark books like crime, mystery, thriller, horror books written by Black authors. So that's like the main priority. But we also have some prompts that I'm going to do my best to fulfill. A couple of them, I'm stretching things a little bit, not in terms of fulfilling the prompt or the author not being Black. Like, I have a couple of books that I really wanted to get to that are of more of like fantasy and sci-fi bent. So they're not strictly the crime and horror and mystery that we're meant to be focusing on for Blackaweenathon. But I do just really want to get to them, so that's how I'm stretching things. So the first prompt is a book that was written in the 20th century. For that, I'm going to be reading the first in the African Immortals series, My Soul to Keep by Tananarive Due. So the African Immortals series is like a horror urban fantasy series. I've been in kind of an urban fantasy mood lately, so very keen to start this series, and if we're honest, I might just binge it the whole month, so who knows? I won't be mad if I do. So in My Soul to Keep, we meet our protagonist, and she's married to a really great guy. He's really attentive. He also seems kind of eternally youthful. People around her start to die mysteriously, and that's when she finds out that her husband is actually part of an Ethiopian sect who 400 years ago traded their humanity for the ability to not die. So the second prompt is a book with queer representation. For that, I'm going to be reading an absolute booktube darling, Ace of Spades by Farida Abika Amide. I'm not going to go into this one too much because you've probably heard of it before. It is a mystery thriller set in an elite school. I'm excited to finally get to it. Prompt number 3, which I love, but is the first one where I'm kind of stretching things, is a book by an underrated author. For that, I'm finally going to be getting to The Lesson by Cadwell Turnbull. Cadwell Turnbull wrote my favorite book of last year, which was No Gods, No Monsters. And not enough people are talking about Cadwell Turnbull. His work is phenomenal. I mean, I say that I've only read No Gods, No Monsters, but I loved it. It was my absolute favorite book of last year. So I've been meaning to get to his debut, which was The Lesson. But this is sci-fi, not crime, mystery, thriller, horror. But I imagine it will have some quite dark themes. It's set in the Virgin Islands, and it's an alien invasion and occupation story about people living under alien occupation. So we're going to be dealing with themes of colonialism. I believe there's also an inciting incident where one of the occupying aliens kills a young local boy. So I feel like it a little bit still fits in the spirit of Blackaweenathon. So that's why I've chosen it. So for the next prompt, a book set in the South, I'm stretching things again, and I'm going to read The Black God's Drums by P. Djeli Clark. I am a big fan of everything that I've read by P. Djeli Clark. I think that he is a phenomenal author, and I would recommend, for anyone who hasn't read any of his work, I would highly recommend reading Ring Shout for this prompt. I have already read Ring Shout. I mean, I would read it again, but like, I haven't read The Black God's Drums, and I'm really keen to get to it. This is a novella following a teen living on the streets in like an alternate history steampunk New Orleans. There are airships, I think maybe like airship piracy, possibly. Anyway, I'm very curious about it. But yeah, again, not sort of one of the core genres. For the next book, A Book in the Diaspora, I'm going to be reading Memoirs of a Porcupine by Elaine Mabonku. This is one that I've had actually on my TBR before because I was reading it for Invisible Cities for the Republic of Congo, and I didn't get to it, so I'm keen to pop it back on here. This is more in the vein of literary fiction, but it is meant to be extremely dark and surreal, so like there's a horror influence there. It's about a Congolese boy with a porcupine animal double who I believe he does murder with, so that's exciting. I've heard a lot of great things about Elaine Mabonku, so I'm really keen to dip in, and I'm going to start here with Memoirs of a Porcupine. The final prompt is a new release. I had a few options for this, and I may still get to those also, but I'm really keen to get to House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. She is the author of The Year of the Witching, which was very popular a couple of years ago when it came out. I haven't actually gotten to that yet. I am still keen to read it, but I just had to pick up House of Hunger. This is queer gothic horror. I mean, are you already excited? I feel like queer gothic horror. It is about a woman who answers a newspaper ad seeking a blood maid. She ends up at the House of Hunger, which is presided over by this really hot countess, but then some of her fellow blood maids start to go missing in the night, so I wonder if this countess is maybe some kind of vampire. Those were my priorities for Black Aweenathon. I do have some others that I'm going to try and get to, but fingers crossed I can get to at least those 6. So in addition to that, I'm also participating in the Camp Crystal 8 Readathon, created and hosted by Barb from Barb's Bookland. Again, all of the links and information will be down below, but this is a points-based team challenge. I've chosen to join Team Elm Street, so my camp counselor is my friend Paige from Pages with Paige. I just felt like she'd make a good camp counselor because we have a compatible tendency to drink the dumb bitch juice. Is that what I want to say? I struggled a bit picking my team, but what cemented things for me is that you actually earn quite a lot of points for stealing prompts from other teams. Each team has its own prompts, its own read-along book, and its own watch-along movie, but I believe you actually get more points for reading prompts from the other teams. So I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be trying to read as many of the team read-along books as I can, and I'm going to do as many of the other team's prompts as I can. But I am also going to try and get the bonus for completing all of my team's prompts. I joined Team Elm Street. The group book for this team is The Girl in Red by Christina Henry. I did recently read Near the Bone from Christina Henry. I felt that it had some good ideas, but I felt that she didn't manage to build and maintain the tension throughout, which is pretty important for horror, for me at least. So I'm cautiously optimistic about this, but I mean, it's almost always more fun to read along with other people, so I'm still looking forward to picking this one up. The first prompt that Paige has come up with is featuring fire. I was having trouble working out what book I was going to read for this, so I've ended up just continuing in my tradition of drinking the dumb bitch juice if Paige picks up the cup, and so I'm going to read Off Season by Jack Ketchum. I believe you'll be able to see there's some fire on the cover. I don't know a whole lot about this book. I've had it sort of like on the back burner for a while. I believe it is cannibal splatterpunk horror. Splatterpunk isn't generally my preferred horror genre. I tend to like more of like a creeping menace than ultra gore and violence, but I'm not opposed to it. I mean, I expect that I'll probably have a little bit of an easier time with the subject matter than Paige. She's doing this to herself for some reason. So I thought I'll come along and be supportive. The next prompt is Claws on the Cover. For that, I'm going to be reading Greener Pastures by Michael Wehunt. It's actually got a dog on the cover, so definitely some claws. These guys look like they have some claws too. It looks pretty creepy. Anyway, this is a horror short story collection. I've heard it be highly recommended by one or both of the guys on the Just King Things podcast, and I love a horror short story collection. I love short story collections in general. My favorites are horror. So the next prompt is Blind Pick. I'm actually reinterpreting this in a way that I assume Paige, a professional prompt stretcher, would be proud of, which is I am going to be reading They Drown Our Daughters by Katrina Monroe. My copy hasn't arrived yet, but I did pre-order it while I was in hospital, and the reason I did is because I saw Kirsty Logan tweet about it, and I don't know anything else about it except that Kirsty Logan was tweeting about it. I kind of blindly bought it when I saw the recommendation from Kirsty Logan because I love her work. So I'm expecting something kind of dark and presumably sapphic, but we'll see when it arrives. I bought it blindly because I was sad and Kirsty Logan tweeted about it. For disability wrap, I'm going to be reading The Sister Who Ate Her Brothers and Other Gruesome Tales by Jen Campbell. I've got my copy here. It's gorgeous, and it's I've opened to a page without like a full page illustration. It's wonderfully illustrated, and this is, I believe, for a middle grade audience. Jen Campbell is a writer, booktuber, and like disability advocate. Like, a lot of her work engages with disability and disfigurement, specifically in fairy tales. So this is a bunch of collected fairy tales that specifically highlights aspects of disability, disfigurement, and also, I believe, queerness. Felt like the perfect, not only spooky season pick, but also really glad to slot it into this disability rep prompt. And the final team prompt for Team Elm Street is a book featuring sleep, dreams, nightmares. For that, I'm going to be actually picking up a recommendation from my partner Adrian. He's very keen for me to read the manga Wombs by Yumiko Shirai. This manga has not actually been published in English. I mean, like, hoping that it gets picked up for formal translation and publication at some point, but I will be reading a fan scanlation. This is a sci-fi following a group of women soldiers on an alien planet. This particular squadron of soldiers have been given the ability to teleport by having an alien creature, like native to the planet they're on, implanted into their uteruses. Adrian has told me that sleep, dreams, or nightmares plays a role in this process, so that's why I'm using it for this prompt. I said I wasn't going to go through all the stuff that I'm reading for the other prompts, and I'm not, but I did just want to highlight what I think is the perfect book for this prompt from Team Haddonfield, which is Halloween Colors on the Cover. For that, I'm going to be reading The Old Woman with the Knife by Gu Byung-ma. This is the most perfect Halloween colors on the cover book I've ever seen. Also, it's about an older lady who is an assassin. It's translated from Korean, so pretty keen to read that. So that's at least some of my TBR for October. Fingers crossed I will get to it all. And also fingers crossed I'll make something other than a TBR at some point. Do you want to hear about like my thoughts on any of the books that I actually get around to reading? Is that valuable? Who can say? Alright, bye. Oh good, my neighbors are going to be loud while I do this. That's great. I love that for me. Let's be energetic. I don't know how to do YouTube voice because I'm not a YouTuber. And I think it's dumb. It took effort to reach even this level. It's amazing, isn't it? Such a loser. What kind of school mom-ish? Isn't that fun? So fun. You would love to hear about books from me. I'm definitely cool and hip.